Today we're going to be doing a tutorial on setting the droop for a sedan or A scale. We're using an A scale as an example. So thank you for joining us on capamericarc.com for our website tutorials. We're using the Lab C801 as our example here with the F1 front sway bar and the standard traditional rear sway bar. We have disconnected our body mount and our shocks so that our arms are free. Okay. Basically what we're going to do is start by disconnecting one side. You don't have to do both. Just disconnecting the sway bar from one side of the rear sway bar. Once you do that, each arm is independent. Okay? This is going to allow us to set our droop. We put our blocks under the chassis, and you want to make sure the chassis is not tweaked so it doesn't rock. If it rocks, it's going to give you a different droop for both sides. Depending on what droop settings you use, I start typically with my A scale with 8 in the rear. So I'm going to check on the droop gauge. You'll see the numbers. This one goes in half increments. We're going to check to see that we're at 8. We are at 8, and when you check it, it's accurate. And you're going to check the other side. The same thing. In this case, I already did my droop. So it's the same and it's accurate. Now if you're going to adjust the droop, if you need to, the screw is here. It's a set screw 2.0, and that's what you would turn to either move it up or down. But since we have 8, that's what we're going to stick with. So once you get the droop on both sides, you're going to reconnect your sway bar. And then after we reconnect our sway bar, we're going to check the actual tension on the sway bar to make sure it's equal from left to right. When I mean equal, for those of you that have done this before, you'll notice when you tweak the car, sometimes it's hard to get the tweak and you're messing with the springs a lot. The truth is it's probably your sway bar that was never checked at the beginning. So what you do to check your sway bar is you want to see a similar amount of tension or movement on both sides of the sway bar. It's never going to be perfectly solid. The more you stay on top of your bearings and things like that, the closer it will stay to having less play. The more worn out everything is, the more play you're going to have. So when you check the tension on both sides, you'll see on mine it's pretty similar. To give you an example of how it could be off, if we take the sway bar, and let me get here my little wrench. If I just move this wrench back here, which is where we adjust it if it was off, if I move this just a little bit, to give you an example, I turned it a quarter of a turn maybe. Now you're going to see that it's different tension. See how much that side's moving now? That side's not moving at all. This is very tight. This side moves a lot. That quarter of a turn made that much difference. So to adjust it back, we're going to put our little tool in here. It's a little hard for me working backwards, guys, but I'm just going to get it this way. It's a little easier. I'm going to put it back to where it was. You can also use a needle nose pliers for this, depending. That's about where it was. I'm going to double check it. And that's back to where it needs to be. You need that equalness. That way when you put your shocks back on and you're tweaking your car, when you do adjust the shocks, you're doing it very minimal and the preload on the shocks will stay about the same. Okay? So we'll pop these back on because we're done with the rear. I'll put the body mount on later, but the shocks are back on. When we do the front, this has an F1 style sway bar. The F1 style is the type that you can change the center inserts, and you have these two set screws which pull away from the center. So what we need to do, we already disconnected the shocks. You're going to take our 1.5, just back off these two screws a little bit, and pull these out. So now, same as the rear, these are independent, so we can set our droop. We're going to put our car back on the blocks properly, check that we're not rocking the car back so that we're not tweaked. Chassis is good. And we're going to check the front. I run the front, depending on the track, at 0, 0.05, or 0.1. This particular case, I'm at 0.5. Or just under a 1 mil, so a half a mil. That side has a little bit of noise. Same noise on that side, so we're pretty equal. So then, if we needed to adjust it, we would come to these 1.5 set screws that are inside these two holes, and that's where we would adjust our droop. So if I was going to change to, let's say, I want to run 0, to give you an example. So I'd have to back this one off a little bit. It's got a lot of play, so loosen this set screw a little more. A little more. See how the noise is getting less? Almost there. Got to go little turns at a time. That's perfect. So then we have to make the other side the same by doing the same method of this, loosening the set screw. Not too much. Okay. Perfect. So now they're both at 0. So to set the Swaybar, the same way we did in the rear is the same concept. We're going to put it back together. And I lost a bearing somewhere. Give me 1 second. Put the bearing back in. Alright. Okay, take the 1.5, I just hold this together, tying it down so that there's no play, everything moves freely. So then we're going to do the front. The same way that we check the tension of the rear, we're going to check the front. So I hold down like this just to hold my car in place, and I check the tension. That doesn't get very much movement. So I'll do the same thing on the other side. See all that movement? That's too much. So I need to make this link longer or this link shorter to take away that play. So I'm just going to lengthen this link a little bit with a 2.5. You adjust it from this position here. You take your 2.5, stick it in there, and I want to make it longer, so I'm going to back it off a little bit. And I'm going to check it again. Everything's still free. Now that one developed a little more movement because it's bringing them into balance. And that still has too much. So I'm going to go a little bit more. Loosen it some more. Little adjustments mean a lot, as you saw in the rear. So that's got a little bit of play. And that's got about the same play. And everything is still free. And that's how you set the droop. You want to make sure everything is equal. That way when you put the shocks on and you go to tweak your car is not off balance with the sway bar, and then you're trying to bring it back in balance with the springs. Your car is not going to be neutral when you do that. You need to take it in steps. Do the droop, do the sway bar, connect the shocks, and then check your tweak. I don't have a motor or pipe in the car, so to do the tweak won't work today. But we'll show you that on the next video. Thank you for joining us, and if you have any suggestions or comments, please contact us on the website at the Contact Us link, or send us an email at info@capamericarc.com. Thank you.